Sophie fella, welcome to the Process podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. Hello.
Why are you good?
I'm good because I get to sit down and chat about life and things.
And
That's my favorite thing to do.
That is your favorite thing to do.
Yep, one of my favorite things to do.
Sophie, who are you?
My name is Sophie. I am 24 years old, living in Hong Kong. I go to Coastal. I live right across the street, nice and close. I play rugby. That's also what I like to do in addition to talking about life. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now.
I'm always very interested at how people answer that question.
Yeah, it's a weird question.
I would say that most people start by giving their job title and what they do. Interestingly, I like that you went with just some cold hard facts, biological age, where you are, sports that you play. Is that something you think,
Yeah.
do you think about that question?
I feel like my go-to when people ask me, who are you, where are you from? If there's a from in there, that's when I go into like, oh, my name's Sophie. I grew up in Shanghai. My dad's German. My mom's Chinese. I speak German with my dad. I speak Chinese with my mom, but my mom can also speak German and my dad can also speak Chinese. And then I went to university in the US, which is why I have an American accent. So like that's the like, oh, background, where you grew up, quick story. And I can do it very quickly. So, but then when you ask, who are you now? I'm like, oh, not job title first.
I love
Things
it.
that I like to do first.
So I think talking about your upbringing it plays a pretty pivotal part of what we're talking about today, which is kind of
Yeah.
something that I have seen. I have seen watching you from afar, but not necessarily from afar, because I've seen you in here at Coastal Fitness since you joined. How long has it been? A couple of years?
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Okay, so I remember during the
Wow.
pandemic. I remember
Yeah.
when you first walked in here. But seeing your story evolve, and when I say your story, some of that story has been using your channels to promote things that you have strong beliefs on, and a lot of that is sharing your own story and how you're trying to positively impact women around you and near and far. So part of it has been that side of you, which feels very purposeful and is sharing of what you're going through, what you've been going through, and what you're continuing going through. But I've also seen an evolution of you as well, and the evolution I've seen of you has been very much linked to the training that you do here. Obviously, a lot of it is tied to the sport that you play, which is rugby. I've learned more through conversation with you, just kind of informally, about your history, your growing up, the cultures, the traditions that you grew up and surrounded yourself with, and the power of environment, and how that manifested itself in the way that you viewed your physical body. So maybe we should start with like your origin story,
Yeah.
and where you
Yeah.
grew up, and how all of that has had its toll on why you are the person you are today with the beliefs that you have.
Yeah. I mean, like I just said very quickly, I'm half German, half Chinese, and grew up in Shanghai, so spent my entire childhood there until I was 18. I actually started rugby and playing any sport quite late, when I was in my first year of high school. Before that, I did ballet, contemporary dance, all types of dance. And yeah, I think in hindsight, and these are all things that I say easily in hindsight, after, reflecting and making these realizations now, but going through it, you just don't know these things. But in hindsight, growing up in that environment, especially that dance environment, being half Chinese, surrounded by a lot of Asian petite bodies, that really affects you without you knowing it at all. And then kind of getting the Chinese mom ideal of what beauty looks like or what femininity looks like, which is this like at that time ballet dancer body. Yeah, that was the environment that was kind of ingrained in me for that many years. I actually quit dance because of a lot of things around body mentality, and then joined rugby. So ballet to rugby, because I thought I would be quite good at rugby. Just had a feeling watching it. And then when I started playing, I was like, oh, this is a very freeing sport. And another amazing part of the sport is that like your body can really look like anything and you can still be really, really good at it. It doesn't have that kind of cookie cutter barrier to it that dance
Attachment,
had.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just pause
Yeah.
you, Sophie? What was the catalyst that made you stop dance? You said because it was something to do with body image, but at what age were you and what was the thing that
Yeah.
made you decide to quit?
I was around 14, 15. And we had like a phase of really intense training for a dance competition where there were kind of pressures around food, what you were eating, how much you were eating. They would bring out a scale in class, in your dance class, front of the room. You'd have to weigh yourself a lot of the time in front of other people around you. And this is like, you're not so young that you can't, like, that doesn't matter to you. And I can definitely remember it. So you're like 13, 14 and caring about how much you weigh. I remember I posted this on my Instagram as one of my whys, because when I saw this picture again, I was like, oh wow, I need to talk about this. But I was around 13, 14. I'd taken a picture of myself in like a dance pose, imported it into Photoshop and stretched it out so that I was like taller but also skinnier, and like shaved off parts of my arms and legs. And that was my ideal body type at the time. And now when I look at it, I'm like, wow, like how times have changed for me. That was my ideal body type when I was 13. But that ideal was shaped by the environment that I was surrounded with, and yeah, the kind of influence.
Can I ask though? Was there was one of the things that pushed you away from dance the fact that you weren't fitting that body type? Because I can imagine, right, as a 13, 14-year-old, you're having to step up on the scale. For the girls, as young teenagers, it's all about trying to fit in, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to stand out, so we'll do anything to adhere to like the status quo. So if you're ticking the box of what the teacher or whoever was making you guys weigh yourself was asking for, I can imagine that you would feel like you're a part of the group and want to continue. Did you was it that you were struggling to meet what was required of you?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
I was definitely struggling to meet that kind of the perfect fit, because I was always I'd started sport late, but I was always kind of had a muscular build. Less muscular than I am now, but you can imagine like I'm there, ballet class, arms out, and then the teachers would come around and like slap me on my arm and be like, why are your arms so manly? And I say manly because they said manly and not muscular. Like muscular can still be a neutral term, but it was manly because in that environment, muscular is manly or big is manly. And I just felt like I had way too much muscle. And comments like, oh, you're so like ripped or you're so jacked. Even at that age, like if it was said as a compliment, it wasn't a compliment to me, because to me it was ripped equals manly, muscular equals manly, jacked equals manly. Everything kind of had this indication of lack of femininity,
which already stems from like that early memory of you being at a dance class and stepping on a scale.
Yeah. And then I don't know what kind of triggered me to join rugby, which in Chinese culture is definitely even more on the manly, right? More on the scale of opposite of, what that traditional femininity looks like in Chinese culture. But maybe at that point I was kind of subconsciously like
rebelling.
Well, yeah, let's just do the thing that's on the other end of the spectrum. But it felt much better because rugby matched my kind of having this natural muscle on me. It made me good at rugby. It didn't make me feel like dance. It was like, oh, no matter how much I train or am actually good at it, I don't have the natural body for it or the natural talent for it. But with rugby, I kind of felt like I had that kind of maybe natural love for it and body for it as well.
I can imagine though transitioning into rugby, even if it was through like rebellion, from the trauma that this had all had created or had formed, I should say. I can imagine you didn't just start playing rugby and you were able just to let go of all of that.
No.
I feel like that is something that you would carry with you for a long time. And I guess the question now is like, do you still carry that? Do those thoughts still creep into your head now?
Yeah. So joining rugby, I had this. It was really hard for me to articulate it until I think I was in university. But I like to call it a spectrum of one end. I'm at university recruited to play rugby, and it's all about like performance and rugby when it comes to being on the team and our coaches. And, we talk about fueling our bodies for performance. We talk about lifting for performance and injury prevention, and everything is geared towards being the best athlete, best rugby player that you can be. And then on the other end, I was feeling this like, I'm 18 years old. I'm here in the US at university, and I want to be seen as attractive. I want to be seen as like, good looking to the other gender, and have this, in my mind, this ideal like feminine body. On the other end are these societal expectations for what being attractive, beautiful, hot, sexy, what that means. And this is also interesting because at this point I'd moved from China to the US. So there are changes in that. But it was sad to see that I connected with a lot of my rugby teammates in the US around this, and they felt the same way. Growing up in the US, like still a lot of similar feelings about that, being, when they are called jacked, they don't like it. It's not a compliment. They feel manly. They don't want to lift too much in the gym because they don't want their upper bodies to get too big. And me and my best friend in university, we would have these conversations around like, yeah, I didn't want to, or we had an only squatting bench day today. Let's go run afterwards to do the extras, kind of like the cardio extras to balance out all the heavy lifting we just did so that we don't get like super stocky and jacked. So it carried on after dance. Like we were playing rugby, but it was still all these thoughts around body tensions were still there. And then I moved to Hong Kong because of COVID. And when I first got here, it was still with me as well. I think joining Coastal at first, I remember, and Lottie will have talked about this on past podcasts, but I would grab the 10 kg, fully knowing that I could probably go for the 12.5, 15 kg for whatever exercise it was. But I just didn't have that. There's always that little voice in the back of my mind, like if I go for the 15 kg shoulder press, like my shoulders will get bigger, and I don't want to get bigger. I don't want my upper body to be bigger than it already is.
Because of what that would then mean, which would mean what? What did your upper body, what scared you about getting your upper body bigger?
I think just like feeling more masculine, feeling
and therefore less attractive.
Yeah, less kind of traditionally attractive for a girl in Asia. I mean, if you look around, like walk around the MTR stations now, you see all these ads of any ad for anything. It can be like one of those weight loss like stimulation
Yeah.
things.
I bought
And
one of those when I was 14.
and the bodies like that they use in those ads, it's everywhere and you don't even notice it. It's on the like trams, the buses, but all the bodies that they're using are very petite and skinny and kind of the Asian traditional, I don't know, stereotype for what beautiful is. If you saw in an MTR on an MTR ad a body like mine, it would probably make anyone do like a double take because it's just so not normal. And I think I started realizing the importance of even those very subconscious things, because coming to Coastal and meeting a lot of strong women lifting here, not really caring about what they look like, and caring more about, I don't know, just doing a workout really well. The leaderboard, I was super into the leaderboard when I first joined because I think that to me shifted my focus away from what I look like to how well I'm performing in the gym.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
you a question? With the leaderboard, was there a part of you that wanted to win the conditioning workouts more than the strength workouts?
I think so. Yeah. I think I still have that now. Like the other day when you complimented me on doing well in an more endurance workout, I think that meant more to me than when someone compliments me on a strength based workout.
Can I ask you to do some self-reflection on that?
Yeah.
Do you think that is because doing well in a strength workout is feeding all your old traumas and insecurities?
Yeah.
And that strength is still linked to what you look like? There is some deep-rooted connection there.
I do think that's true, because I think there's something about a let's say max clean and jerk that makes me think, if I do this, I don't know, I think of like Olympic weightlifters right away. Like very kind of stocky, short body types. And that's growing up something that was not seen as a positive thing in my childhood. And it was actually the CrossFit Open this past year where I talked more about this whole idea of like, if I do well in an endurance workout, I'm fine with that because that's what I think is a good way of being fit for a female, versus, I guess for a male, you can tell me, doing well in a strength workout is that better than an endurance workout?
Well, it's just funny, isn't it? Because we, men and women in this case, are very often wired the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I have a very similar story growing up where I had like, you know, numerous traumatic, you know, I don't actually at the time think they were traumatic things that happened to me, but things that have kind of become a part of my identity. And a lot of that has been around being small and skinny. Like I was a late developer. I started later than all my friends. I was always on the front row in school photos. I was always like the small guy in the rugby team. And so because of all of that all fed an insecurity that I wanted to be bigger. Mm-hmm. And so you and I are basically starting at opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we're basically running away from those insecurities, and that's running us into opposite directions. I gravitate towards wanting to be bigger, wanting to be bulkier, wanting to be stronger. You're gravitating towards the opposite way. And it's just very interesting that we're both essentially running away from a childhood trauma, and that is leading our beliefs and our actions every day towards this opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And I think, sorry, and I don't mean to cut you off, but it's interesting to hear your story, because I know I put a lot of work into my story, and I talked a lot about my insecurities as well and where it all started from. And to be honest, like some of those, I've only connected the dots on some of those things in the last couple of years. You know, I'm on 35 this year, and it's been those are things that just been looming there for a really long time. I've never really understood where it comes from. Like, why do I have a fear of being small still? Like, why do I always gravitate towards strength work? Why do I, fill in the blank? And it wasn't until I really sat down and thought, where did this all start? Like, why did one day I ask my mum and dad for a bench press at home when I was 14?
Yeah.
I was like, I know exactly why I asked for a bench press when I was 14. And I couldn't wait to work out that whole summer and come back into the new school year and be like, look at me now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I think it's very different for male and females. And I think it's important, and that's why I also think it's important to talk about it and have these conversations with both male and females, because sometimes you just don't know that. I think a lot of guys would say in university, "Oh, you're so ripped," and they genuinely mean it as a compliment, but you like start bawling your eyes out because to you it's like the worst thing ever if a guy tells you, "Oh, your arms are huge." And it can be a genuine compliment, but for some people, based on what you dealt with growing up, it's just not. And I think for a lot of female athletes, this conversation has only really surfaced the last few years, and is a really important one. You can see it in the CrossFit world. When Laura Horvath won the CrossFit Games, and she said something about appreciating my body for not the way it looks, but everything that it can do, and I just won. And I think she referenced the Barbie movie as well. But the CrossFit Games Instagram then posted a lovely quote. It's really long, so I don't remember it, but it was something about it's to climb a mountain or to score under the posts or to do whatever, run a marathon. It's not about it's not about the external layer of your body. It's about what's inside, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that the last few years, you said you kind of had those realizations in the last few years for you. And for me, it was the last few years. I'm 24, but
yeah,
still the last few years.
And I think that's amazing that you've come to these realizations so early on.
Yeah, and I'm lucky that it is earlier, because the longer for you, if you've had it at 30, you've had to untangle 30 years of thinking one way, and it'll probably take you another 30 to do it at least. And I guess for me, it's been 20 years of one way, and now I'm on my journey to kind of undoing the last 20 years. Unlearn.
It was interesting. I feel like I didn't actually properly answer your question when you said, is it therefore something that males want to be strong? Like, is that something you would? And again, I would say no, not necessarily. Again, it comes. I know plenty of guys who were big kids when they were younger, and big being in their eyes overweight, and probably got teased for it, and probably made them not be included in the crowd or whatever it was. And that is something that they've carried in with their whole lives. And so for them, they don't want to be identified as a big kid anymore. Like, they'll do anything to be the small petite kid. Like, and it exists in males as well, in the same way it does for females. And I'm sure there are females out there. In fact, I know many who have perhaps had experiences when they were younger. Maybe that's led to things like eating disorders, who now like don't want to identify with that anymore. And they're running away from the small, petite, underweight girl, and they're wanting to be the big, strong girl, which I think is really cool when I see that. And I mean, like, I think about this all the time. It's like, what is the problem here? Okay, I definitely think there is a problem in the sense that the way that we portray, there's generally too much attachment to our worth based on the way we look. I think that's probably the best way I can say it, right? 'Cause it's not necessarily glorifying any one body type, although for sure we do glorify a certain body type, and different cultures glorify different body types. But it's still too much attachment over what you look like being having too much impact on what your worth is. With that said, though, I do think there is this kind of fine line, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, on us kind of going the opposite way now, where we recognize that perhaps as a society we place too much emphasis on looking a certain way, which dictates beauty. And then now we're seeing this kind of rise in like the other end of the spectrum, and like plus size models,
Mm.
obesity being okay and cool. And there's a part of me that feels, you know, if sports like CrossFit are doing a great job of talking about the importance of function and that being the most important thing overlooked, then I think we need to do that in society as well, right? And it's like there are no benefits from a health perspective to being largely overweight. And so at the same time, are we just now glorifying another thing? You know, where it's like we need to be healthy, functioning human beings at the ground of all of it. That is probably the most important thing. Like if we want to live long and prosper and you know, avoid disease and all these things which come from the way that we live our lives, like why isn't that the conversation? And I get it, that's really hard to depict in an image or a video.
I think there is this like, what does health look like? And for everyone it's different. Or what does like fitness look like as well? Because I know a lot of, I guess, people who work at gyms, PTs, feel this pressure to look a certain way to be able to coach someone coming to them and help them look a certain way. Or even athletes, it's like, I think this way, and I don't think it's perfect, but when I kind of feel insecure about my body, something I like to tell myself is, oh, at least when I walk in the street, I look like an athlete. Like people look at me and they will know that I go to the gym, or they know that I play some sort of sport. But then that's not great either, because I know plenty of people who are stronger than me, fitter than me, better at rugby than me, who maybe don't like build muscle as easily as I do, and don't look like an athlete, but they're still really, really good athletes. So yeah, there is this focus on how we look. And I think that's evolutionary, right? Like we kind of
survival of the fittest, the
we
strongest.
are attracted to people based on how they look, despite what kind of we like to say not.
No, for sure. But I think that's important to say, right? I think that's important to say that it's like we all, most of us have, and I'm not an expert on this subject at all. I just think about this stuff a lot. But we have these innate, unexplainable instincts of attraction to other people. And we can't deny those, you know, yes, maybe media in the world has skewed our what we deem to be attractive and what we're attracted to, but a lot of it is innately within us. I remember being a little kid, like having, before social media and anything, having attraction to certain girls who looked a certain way. You know, that's always been a part of me. Then I think it's like there's another part to it, which is okay, that like, you know, we live in a culture now where we are so quick to tell someone that they've said the wrong thing when we upset someone. But then really, like, a part of me feels that we're all carrying traumas, and we're going to carry traumas and insecurities for the rest of human existence. It's just the way that our brains work. And so a big part of it lies on the responsibility of us, in the same way that you're doing right now with yourself, in leaning into your insecurities, you know, connecting the dots on why they exist, and then sharing the stories. Like, you have just as much responsibility to do that for yourself as does that guy who's trying to compliment you by saying you've got lovely big arms, who's actually insulting you, right? It's not his fault. At the end of the day, it's actually, you know, it's our response to his compliment that has created the friction, the drama, and the drama, you know?
No, I think it is important to kind of, I like to call it, do the work on yourself, because you can tie back everything to, you know, the way you grew up, the environment, the this, that. But unless you connect those dots, then to you just sit there and you're like, oh, why am I feeling this way? So yeah, it is a lot of thinking, a lot of journaling, a lot of whatever it is that other people kind of as a tool put in their toolbox to do that inner work, yoga, therapy. I think with realizing that I had all of these thoughts about body, gym, female athletes, it took a lot of work to just sit down and be honest with myself and be like, why am I feeling this way about lifting a dumbbell, a heavier dumbbell, or a comment that someone said? But it is it's brought me so much closer to a lot of my friends who are female athletes or go to the gym. And I think it's also given me this like greater purpose to think about, because I love having projects in life. If it's not like rugby or work, outside of that, I want to be doing something meaningful. And when I realized that this is something I really care about because it's so close to me and my childhood growing up, going forward, I wanna make that better for especially young girls in Asia. If they're growing up in an environment where they see rugby players, they see, I don't know, I'm coaching them and I'm wearing a tank top and they see my arms and they have that at age 10, will that change? Will they grow up and feel like me right now, with this juggling this dilemma, or will they grow up and that's completely normal to them? Because I've realized the more I've kind of gotten into CrossFit, watching CrossFit, following female CrossFitters on Instagram, following female rugby players on Instagram. When I was surrounded by only female rugby players this summer, in June and July when I was playing sevens, I don't think about the other side of it because that is your environment. And yeah, when I was younger, if I saw a female CrossFitter, that was like, no, I do not want to look like that. That is extremely manly. I think I remember thinking that exactly. And now when I watch the CrossFit Games, it's just such a different feeling. And that to me is like, that's growth right there. Yeah. I feel differently. I don't know exactly how I did that, but I feel differently, and that's what I want to keep doing. And I want to do that for, like, I guess one thing is normalizing it for young girls growing up, especially in Asia, but also the kind of females, the women who come to me after I posted like a gym video on my Instagram, and they're like, oh, I don't really go to a gym. If I do, it's like just spin class because I don't want to do anything too intense or I don't want to lift weights. But after seeing your video, like I really want to go and do that because it looks cool, or I want to lift a heavier weight. And that to me means a lot because that is a female who grew up as females do in that environment. This is what, traditional beauty and femininity looks like. They probably had an inkling to go to the gym, maybe play a sport, but didn't do it because they kind of followed the confines of traditional, what society deems as beautiful. And then now they're kind of rethinking it a little bit and questioning them and being like, so you really wanted to go to the gym or play the sport, but you didn't. Why? Why don't you? Go do it. But it's hard. It's really hard to kind of, there's that spectrum. You don't have to be a professional athlete, even like a few steps lower, choosing that or that for females. And a question that I always ask is, for males, because going to the gym, if you're a male athlete, going to the gym is already kind of like, I guess, a male thing to do, deemed as like okay in male society. It almost seems like it's the same direction, like performance goals for males and, I don't know, aesthetic goals for males. But I remember we had a conversation where you said, actually, no, they can't, they're not entirely the same.
Yeah, performance and aesthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely not.
Yeah.
I think I would honestly say that a very, 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 very high majority of people who step foot in a gym, any form of gym, CrossFit gym or commercial gym, are running away from something. Mm-hmm. Like it's a rooted insecurity that has come from at some point in their former life, up before this point in time, that they're coming to the gym to fix. Sometimes it's not necessarily just a body image issue. It can be a confidence issue. It can be something that happened on their first date. It can be something their mum said, something their aunt, so many things. But I would say that most people come into gym to fix a problem, and that problem is rarely performance related. And I even know that in elite sports, where it's all about performance, there are very few people who genuinely don't care about the way they look.
Yeah.
Because like the more jacked, the more ripped you are, like the more marketable you are, which means the greater your livelihood is, the more money you can earn. Generally, the better what life works out for you.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to say that's a wrong thing, because there's so much that goes that works out for you when you do care about those things. And I even know in the sport of CrossFit, like CrossFit is an extremely hard aerobic sport, and being really, really lean actually doesn't serve you in the sport of CrossFit. Like we actually need a buffer of fat to allow us to recover and bounce back from really, really hard training. Like we see it in women all the time, right? That's something that's really cool. It's been spoken about more, the impact of low levels of body fat on things like your hormones, estrogen, your cycle, pregnancy, all those things. Those are being spoken about now. So in the female world, I feel like there is a greater acceptance of letting go of really lean bodies and knowing that, your period is not something that's going to be like you have one, and if you mess up your cycle, it may never come back. And the repercussions of that are really, really great. Not just if you want to have children, but just for longevity as a female. So I feel like in the female world now, that is being spoken about more, and you're definitely seeing the level of leanness in female bodies in elite sport, especially CrossFit, has evolved massively since 2014. 2014, if you go look at the CrossFit Games and you go look at all the athletes on a start map, like they are shredded out of their minds. But now there's a lot of women who compete at the games who don't have like visible abs, actually kind of have like a bit of body fat hanging over their shorts, which is actually super important for performance. I would say that there's a deeper underlying issue for most men in the sport of CrossFit, which is they don't unfortunately have as clear cut science to support the detrimental impact of being too lean, because we don't have things like a menstrual cycle. And so therefore it's still okay to be too lean. And there is still so much precedence placed on the way you look as a CrossFitter. I would say that at all levels. And I mean, I see it. I work with a lot of high level CrossFitters, and I know through conversations and just reading of these people that, we often say that it's all about performance, but when push comes to shove and you need to actually go all in and prioritize performance, they're not willing to do it because of what it might do for their body composition. You know what I really liked? I don't know if have you watched Quarterback? I feel like you would have watched it.
Yeah, I have.
You know Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
Fucking legend.
He's
Do you know why he's a legend? Because he doesn't give
No.
a shit about what he looks like.
Yeah.
And that's what I really appreciate about him. I was like, I love that this guy, number one, he's my age. I'm like, how is he doing that? That's mental. And
he's such a like dad character.
he's just like, he doesn't, his wife dresses him,
Yeah.
doesn't care how she dresses him. He doesn't look remotely athletic, right? He's not jacked. He's not defined. He's like one of the greatest quarterbacks playing the NFL. And he's like been doing it for 15 years now.
Yeah.
And he's still playing now. And it's just, I love that, because then I see a guy who's like, this guy genuinely just cares about performance.
Yeah.
And it's like, that wasn't important. And it was really refreshing to see him, someone like that, so influential in such a massive sport. And but then you look at him like Kirk Cousins, like no one talks about Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
He's probably like one of the least spoken about quarterbacks because he's just not that marketable. He just looks,
I didn't know.
He just looks like a dad
watching it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's a cost. It's almost like that is the cost of him being maybe not the best looking, like most alpha dude out there, and who doesn't work out that much and is not insanely jacked.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you think you were talking about like lean body types? Where did that come from? Because I remember all throughout university, and actually now as well, coming back from my summer of playing sevens, I knew I was leaner because I played a summer of sevens.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. Like I was like, I want to stay lean like this. And that's something that I still work on, is kind of get rid of that, like, oh, it's good for me to be lean, because actually it's like you just said, like it doesn't really change my performance on the rugby field being this much body fat versus this much body fat. I don't, the only thing that it actually affects is like me feeling more confident in terms of the way I look and being attractive because I'm lean and getting more compliments when I'm lean.
Yeah.
Well, why lean? Why do we want to be lean?
I mean, again, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like when you look back to photos of people in, pre-1900s, like beauty looked very different.
Yeah.
It was like actually being a bit chubby and having hairy armpits was like sexy for a woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was just the norm.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think, evolution of different diets, mainstream media, working out has, becoming a thing as well.
Yeah. I think if I were to try and answer that, being lean to me, almost my ideal body type that comes up is almost like a track runner, like a sprinter or like a 400, 800 runner, someone who's very lean and looks like they run.
So when you say that, is that someone that that's the kind of North Star that you think like a body should look like to represent full athleticism, or is that what you would like to look like?
What I would like to look like.
Yeah.
I don't think.
See, I want to look like Chris Bumstead. I want to look like a stupidly jacked bodybuilder who could like hardly walk.
Okay.
Like my lats are so big, I have to shuffle when I actually can't run.
Okay, that sounds functional.
But it's not functional at all. But again, that is me. That is my insecurity feeding that image of what perfect looks like.
Right.
And I think like the more and more I dig into this, a part of me, and this isn't giving up or quitting on doing the work, because I'm going to continue to do the work forever. But a part of me thinks that this is probably going to be a part of me forever. And a big part of me was hated that idea that I couldn't like shake this thing, and I needed to like get rid of it, and because more than anything I could prove to myself that I could change who I was. But then I really think that this has just become a part of me, and it's so deeply ingrained in me, and my relationship with it has evolved massively over the years. Like something I just posted about not that long ago was I didn't even think that this would have an impact on me, but throwing away my scale at home has had such immense impact on my relationship with the way that I look. So like to paint a picture, what I used to, remember, just like context, this is a little kid who was tired of being a little kid who now wants to be like the big grown up man. That's me.
Yeah.
So the scale for me, I had attached a number, which is about 85 kilograms to representing man. Yeah. Now, where that number comes from is when I used to play for the Hong Kong national team, I was told that I could get to 90 kg one day. And I made it my mission to get to 90, and I could never do it. I was eating like 4 char siu fans a day, 4 apple juices, eating shit.
Yeah.
But it was really like when the coach said you should be 90 kg, all he was really doing, and it's totally not his fault, I hadn't done the work again on my own traumas, is he just brought up, undug all those old traumas of me once again being too small and I need to be bigger. And so now in my head, 85 kilograms, I have just subconsciously realized is a number that I deem to be big enough.
Yeah.
So if I'm 85, all's okay. And so what I used to do
84 is not okay.
84 is not okay. That would genuinely, and I'm not kidding, Sophie, like there would be times where I would stand on the scale and I'd be 84 and I just finished dinner, very satisfied. I'd have to go back to the fridge and stuff something down my mouth.
Wow.
Like I need to get that kilogram up for tomorrow morning, or I would like just chug 2 glasses of water.
Yeah. Wow.
And I didn't even realize the control that my scale at home had over me. And it wasn't until it just ran out of batteries and I was sick and tired of stepping on it and it just saying on the screen, low battery.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm changing this fucking battery every 3 months. I'm just going to throw these scales away and I'll buy a new set. And I never bought a new set. And then a year went by and I was like, oh my God, like I haven't cared about my weight in so long. And we have an in-body machine in here, right? Which basically assesses your body fat percentage, fat mass, weight. As a team, we would step on that thing once a month and kind of like do a team weigh-in to track our progress. I'm now at a point where I don't actually want to step on that thing. And it's not because I fear that I'm going to be heavier or fatter than I was before, because I actually think I'm a lot leaner than I am, than I have been probably a year ago. But I fear that if I step on that scale again and take my body fat measurements, I'm going to take a backward step in my relationship with weight and the way that I look. And I might see a number on there that might trigger me to say, you need to eat more, or you need to eat less, or you need to get leaner, or you need to be heavier. And I'm really happy where I'm at right now, not having that attachment to that stuff. That a part of my strategy is actually deliberate avoidance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's deliberately avoiding the things that I know trigger me. You know, it's basically like, it's changing your cycle of life. Because if I bring those things back in, because those things were such a part of my life for so long that they confirmed the identity of who I was at that time, which was someone who was still insecure about their size and their weight.
Yeah.
And the fact that I've removed those things now, it's created this kind of new cycle of my identity that I'm really loving. And I'm almost like a bit scared to bring it back in. Like sometimes I'll walk into a change room, there'll be a scale right there, and I'll be like, no.
Yeah,
I'll have to restrain myself and like just go past it and walk past it.
That's really interesting because of like for a lot of females, the scale goes in the other direction, right? You want the number to be as low as possible. And I same thing. I just don't really use one ever. I don't think it reflects my body, or like it doesn't give me much value looking at how much I weigh. So I just try not to do it. Sometimes I like if there is one, I'll step on it, just curious like how much I weigh now. But my weight hasn't really like changed much over the last few years, which I don't know is strange or not, because my body definitely has. So to me, I'm like, well, it doesn't matter then. But here's an interesting question that popped into my mind when you were talking about your story. Something that I've realized as a like bigger, more muscular female is that it affects like where the insecurity comes from is usually in relation to males in my life, right? Being seen as attractive or blah blah blah. And
I think I know your question.
Oh no, and for obviously for bigger females, your fear is that I don't know, that a male that you're dating or hanging out with, seeing, tells you that, oh, like you're too big. I don't think you're attractive because you're manlier than me, or like you have bigger muscles than me. That probably says more about the male than anyone in this situation, but that has happened before to me.
So can I ask you, because I think I know what your question to me is going to be, like, do I feel that same? Is a big driving factor of me wanting to be bigger based upon my perception of what the opposite sex think of me? Was that what you're going to ask?
Yes, that's probably question one of it. Question two would have been, how would you feel dating a bigger female than you, like a more muscular female than you? Because
so the thing is, I've always been attracted to like sporty muscular women.
Right. Okay.
Forever.
Interesting.
You know, my earliest memory of this was Sporty Spice. You know the Spice Girls?
Yes.
Everyone fancied like scary Ginger Spice, Baby Spice. I was always like, Sporty Spice is so fit. And that was from when I was a little kid. The fact that she could do like, I still remember, can't remember which music video it was, but she's doing like backwards handsprings. So she's just like doing backflips. And I was just like, oh my God, I want to marry that girl. And so I don't know where this has come from, but forever, I've always been attracted to athletic girls.
Interesting.
And so,
yeah.
So that, I don't know, I'm sure I can trace that back somewhere, but the earliest memory I have of it is genuinely Sporty Spice. Like I always think about that, like listening to Spice Girls when I was in primary school. And like, I always fancy the girls on the sports teams. I always fancy the best athletes. I always had like adoration for like sports women of like all sizes, even bigger than me. Like,
right. Okay,
I've always had that attraction to them.
Yeah.
And like skinny and petite and small has never been something I've been attracted to.
That's interesting, because I would have guessed the other way almost, because if you're insecure about kind of not being big enough, you're almost wanting to.
So, okay, this is the interesting thing, because I thought your question was going to come. The interesting thing is that my insecurity around my size has never been about attraction to the opposite sex. My insecurity has actually been validation around fellow men.
Okay.
And another big one was, this is actually quite funny, but trying to get into bars when I was underage and being like
Okay.
14, 15 and trying to get into a nightclub, and my friends who were bigger than me getting in without ID
Mm,
and me getting ID created this like forever insecurity about getting ID'd. Because if I get asked for ID in a bar or a club, that basically means that in my head, I've created the narrative is because you're small, you don't look like a man.
mm,
So a lot of my like operation to want to be bigger and more manly is less about attracting the opposite sex, which is probably why I've never been scared of a girl being like
mm-hmm.
more muscular or strong than me. Um, I would really hope that I'll always be stronger than my partner, if I'm honest, um, because
Yeah.
that's just a lot of shit you have to deal with.
That's very interesting that it comes more from the males around you than from the females.
It was
Because
rugby. It was like rugby and sport, right? It's like
yeah.
rugby, sport, and like being on the front row. Like none of that has to do with females and
Yeah.
being attracted. Actually, like the only like little trauma I have from like females was like being called cute when I
Mm.
was, when and again, like going back to your story, they were paying me a compliment. So
Yeah.
this is like start of secondary school when like you're becoming a teenager, you're starting to have feelings and attractions to the opposite sex, and it would be like my plus point was Ed's really cute, and I hated that because I was like, you're just saying I'm small, not a man again.
Yeah.
But that trauma
Like
had,
cute like a puppy.
yeah, that trauma had actually started from guys telling me I wasn't big enough,
Right, right.
but
Yeah.
then it manifested itself over to females.
Yeah. It's interesting because it feels like in the female world, yes, the validation from other females is important, but I think the validation from males is a lot more important. And that's
Mm,
I mean, you can see all the different ways that beauty brands market to females. The things we do, the makeup, the waxing, the shaving, the everything, sure, they may say, oh yeah, you do it for yourself and to feel confident, but a lot of the time I feel like it's for you dress up for males.
mm.
um yeah, that is an interesting one.
Can I-
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, is
Um,
it in relation to the same thing?
It's definitely in relation to like attraction to the opposite sex. So I guess this is more like dating advice from Sophie Fella.
Okay, ready.
So these guys who've tried to pay you a compliment by telling you like how good your body looks or how strong your arms are, or how strong your shoulders are, and that triggering the complete opposite effect in you.
Mhm.
How can men or women, regardless of who they're trying to attract, how can we ask better questions that minimize the likelihood of triggering a trauma?
Ooh, okay. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe it's complimenting someone not based on the way they look, which I feel like it's really hard to do.
What if I said, Sophie, you look amazing?
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, getting a compliment that it was actually, I can tell a little story because Tammy was in this situation, but I think she said to me one random day, and I still remember this because it just meant so much to me, because of the words she used. I think she said, "Oh, Sophie, you're gorgeous, and I don't think you know that, and I want to let you know that."
Yes,
And
Tam.
and I think she was looking at a picture that I was showing Lottie or something, but I still remember that because it's like a girl when you call her hot, that I feel like immediately brings in the body. And this, I'm not speaking on behalf of all females in the world, but to me, hot is bringing in that body element. Beautiful, gorgeous, I feel like is a bit more, I don't know, encompassing. Personality is in there. But I would say, yeah, if you want to compliment someone on the way they look, you look amazing is a nice one. But also, if you're having a conversation with them and they say something funny or witty or smart, like just telling them, oh, like, you're really funny.
Yeah. I think as well, because communication is a two-way street. So if you are someone who receives a compliment, but it triggers a trauma, to be
Yeah.
able to also communicate how that intended compliment has made you feel and why, I think is really important as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So like we got to do a service to the person who has great intentions of giving us a compliment,
Yeah.
to say,
For
hey,
sure.
I know the intentions of that were really sweet and thank you for that. But just so you know, I'm currently trying to unlearn, or I'm trying to wrestle with something around my body image right now. And unfortunately that has just triggered some bad feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe in the future, telling me I'm beautiful would be
Better.
would be better. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think surrounding yourself with also people that kind of going back to what we were talking about before with if there are males in my life who need me to be smaller so that they feel better about themselves, that's their work to do. Like, I'm doing my work, but you also need to go off and do your work, because there's clearly something you're insecure about if you're not okay with the female in your life being stronger, bigger than you. I think, that is something I've experienced where, and that feeds into it, right? So you're like, oh, okay, I should not be bigger. But then if you surround yourself with the right people, who, are not insecure about, don't feel emasculated by me being bigger, then they'll be like, go lift, go to the gym. I don't care. Do what you enjoy. If you like lifting, go lift. And yeah, you need those people reminding you of that. Surround yourselves with those people.
Yeah. You know what? I genuinely think in a fight, Cami would be more effective than I would. Genuinely. Because she does jujitsu and sometimes will wrestle, and like she pretty much wins all the time. Just the like mobility, she can get her legs in like weird positions and like choke me out when I can't. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I've had so many broken bones and joints that I feel like if I actually went for someone, I would just shatter like glass.
Yeah.
Whereas she'd actually be way more resilient than me.
I've had a conversation with her around similar things, and it's interesting. I would assume that she, kind of having the same upbringing, being half Asian as well.
Yeah, quarter Asian.
Yeah, quarter Asian.
She's very similar to you.
That in terms of
she has been wrestling, kind of wrestling the same traumas as you have. But she also has a very similar body to you. And if you guys just like lift do a couple of reps and you guys build muscle, I'm so jealous. Like, I'm genuinely jealous of your ability to do that. And so for her, she spent, and this is my fiance I'm talking about, she has spent her whole life trying to be smaller, but she's also now in a position where she's owning it. Very much like you. And obviously, like, I acknowledge that I have a part to play in that as well. And so I want to encourage her to like wear your booty shorts. Like, you look great in booty shorts. Like, don't hide your legs, which was maybe something that a lot of girls do. It's like, show off your body. Like, you look amazing, and you should, and just own it. Yeah. But then again, I could only do that because we had open conversations about how she felt around all of it and some of the things that she was wrestling with. And so that is just such an essential first step, is that we have to be able to do the work and then share the work that we're doing and what we need from the people around us. Yeah. And then the people around you, like you said, can actually really help facilitate your growth, or they can take away from your growth. Yeah. Which I think is what you're alluding to, like the power of your environment and who you surround yourself with. Yeah.
I think a big part of doing the work is also realizing what those major triggers are for you. And one of them is actually my mom, Chinese mom. A lot of Chinese moms like to make comments about bodies, but
just make comments without thinking, full stop.
or that. I would say in Chinese culture, it's just very okay to talk about bodies very openly, and that's something that I've always kind of wrestled with that like Asian versus Western upbringing, is that on the Chinese side, I'm like, you can't just say that to people. Like, you can't just call someone big or fat to their face. Yeah. But I've had to really like realize, here are my boundaries. I do not like it when you comment on my body. I think growing up, my my mom would make a lot of comments about my body and her body. And then even when she's making comments about her body, that of course is affecting me because she's painting the picture of what she thinks is attractive. And if I'm not fitting into that, then I'm still getting the message, even if it's not a direct comment on my body. So, yeah, I'm playing rugby. Obviously, my body is changing. I'm doing CrossFit here, and I go home this summer, and I have to be very, very strict on what I am okay with hearing and talking about.
Can I share some thoughts?
Yeah.
Totally hear where you're coming from, and have very much been in that mindset for a long time. Not my parents though, but just like maybe people around me. I have been on this kind of like journey of life where I love the saying, trust the triggers to teach, right? So when you feel a trigger, there is a lesson to be learned there. There is this opportunity for growth. And so when I feel a trigger, like someone does something or I see something or someone in my environment does something that makes me feel a certain way, I want to try to get to the point where that no longer triggers me. That becomes like the mission and the goal of that current phase of life. And so like I find that I'm kind of walking around life right now, constantly looking for the things that are triggering me, and then going back into a quiet room being like, okay, why did that trigger me? And how do I get myself to a place where that no longer triggers me? Because if I can exist in my life and never be triggered by anything, like what an amazing place to be.
Yeah, that sounds like stoicism to a T.
So that's kind of like where I'm existing now. And so when I feel those triggers, yes, for sure, people close to you and around you, I think you can have those honest conversations about, what you would like in the relationship that would benefit you. But obviously we can't tell every single person we walk past, hey, like, don't say this, do say this. Because I know sometimes, I have clients, and it's like your mum definitely has nothing but your best interests at heart. Mm-hmm. She doesn't realize that she's triggering something in you that's making you feel a certain way. She just maybe thinks, oh, maybe she needs to hear this, and this will actually, make her be a better person somehow. And so I realized being in this gym, like one of my biggest triggers was if someone looks at me and says, oh, you've lost weight. And I've literally had one client that I've coached now for 14 years, who I would say every 3 months, maybe more like 2 months, he'll say, Ed, he'll look at my body, I'll be like, I know what he's going to say. And he goes, you lost weight? And I'm like, no, Alex, I have not lost weight. And before, it really used to piss me off. And I would justify, like, here's my in-body score. Like, my weight's still exactly the same. I'll get you a scale right now. Look, like, this is just as tight. Then I realized, I was like, you're being ridiculous. Rather than like beating up your client for stating that you might have lost weight, why don't I just get to the bottom of what this really means? Yeah. And actually be okay. Formulate an answer that doesn't actually trigger you anymore. And that's kind of where I'm at. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I would love to be able to do that in all situations in life. Like people around you doing whatever, being annoying,
saying what they want.
And you're at peace with yourself and your response, and nothing else matters. But that's hard to get to. And that's a lot of inner work to go through.
Maybe that's a good challenge you can set yourself for this Christmas when you go home.
Well, won't be going home this Christmas.
Oh, sorry. When did you say you're seeing your mum? Soon.
Probably next summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, whenever you
Not
see your
anytime
mum,
soon.
whenever you see your mum next, maybe that's your next challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. Well, I can start it tomorrow. Yeah, there are many things that will probably come up as triggers.
I think you're already doing it. You've already identified a lot of triggers in your life, and you're doing really good work to understand them and build tools around how you can handle them better. I think you just basically announced that there was there's another trigger at home that you hadn't sunk your teeth into yet, and that's your next challenge.
I mean, I think, what was your phrase about the triggers just now?
Trust the triggers to teach.
Trust the triggers to teach. I also think you can trust the triggers to create purpose and meaning as well, because once you realize the things that bother you about this world, or all the triggers, maybe you can clump them together. There's a theme behind these certain triggers, And that's exactly what I did with, okay, I have many triggers around body, female athlete, performance. Can I take those triggers? This is what bothers me about the world that we live in right now. Can I do something? Can I invest my energy into them in a different way than responding angrily and do something better, more meaningful for whoever, young girls, other girls, the next generation?
So I meant to ask you, because you alluded to this idea that you love projects,
I
and
do
that
love
you felt like you
projects.
are on this, you have this purpose right now where you want to basically pay it forward to the girls, the young girls especially, who might be experiencing what you went through, and basically help them navigate it more effectively. So what are some of the projects that you have worked on? I remember like you were doing some cool stuff with like animated drawings and things like that. But what
Yeah.
are you doing, and how are you using your platform to now
Yeah.
make a difference?
What am I doing? That's always a great question. It feels like there's a lot of bubbling ideas up in my head. Some mini projects have actually come to fruition. I was playing around with some animated potential NFT project. Has not happened yet. We'll see where that goes. I think one of my favorite ones that I've actually, very simple but actually executed, was this past summer when I was playing rugby. Before I went, I bought some qipao material. So like Chinese qipao is a dress that you wear in traditional Chinese culture. It's like tight neck up here. The material's like silky and
Like a
usually has
cheongsam?
yeah, exactly the
Yeah,
same.
same thing.
Qipao's the 普通话.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And so I bought that material from like Shamshui Po somewhere, random little shack on the street, and got them made into scrunchies because I
That's
really
right,
want
yeah.
to. I think I was sitting there brainstorming. The two opposite ends of the spectrum in my life are rugby and being Chinese, that Chinese femininity, beauty, that culture on the other end. How do I do something creative that brings them together? And I was kind of thinking, oh, like rugby ball, can I put like Chinese designs on a rugby ball and throw it into actually create this rugby ball for girls to use? Or can I somehow bring the Chinese femininity into when I'm playing rugby? What do I do? Like customize a mouth guard, socks? Well, and then the easiest was just to do a hair tie, a scrunchie. But I wanted it to represent that, you can be playing rugby and wearing this hair tie that represents traditional Chinese femininity because of the material. And you can do both. You can be Chinese and you can be playing rugby, and it can be beautiful. It can all be beautiful. So I wore that for every single Sevens game that I played in this summer. And it was also nice because I was playing for Germany. So I was wearing the German jersey, but I had a little piece of my Chinese side in my hair as well. Most difficult part was that it kept falling out. So I had to really lock it in there.
Really, suffocate the hair to keep it in for the game.
Triple hair ties.
Love it.
Yeah, so that was just a mini project. Wanted to do something, but hopefully more to come. I sad to be leaving Hong Kong because I feel like I have a good crew of female athletes that I know here who care about this topic as well, and would have ideally created some sort of photo shoot project with them, just to keep this conversation going and keep awareness going as well.
So what is if you can give one piece of parting advice and knowledge to girls who might be in similar shoes to yourself, what would it be?
Have a think about why you think the way you do right now, because I think that's the biggest once I questioned why I felt this way, it led me to finding answers from the past and making a lot of realizations. And this only really started in 2020 when I came to Hong Kong and started questioning why I feel this way. And now I'm on this journey. I'm still on the journey and it'll take a while, but I feel much better than I do in 2020 and feel more confident in myself and my body than I did. Yeah.
Love it.
Piece of advice.
We have a quick fire round.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, so rules in this quick fire round is, of course, as the name suggests, it has to be quick fire.
Okay.
No it depends or no and ahhing. You're just going to say the first thing that comes to your head.
Yeah.
I'm also going to give a shout out to Chris Toison, who formulated these questions. So I have had nothing to do with these questions
I'm ready.
at all. So I'm going to be reading these for the first time as well. You ready?
Yep.
Question number 1. What's your favorite workout song?
AC/DC, You Shook Me All Night Long.
Nice. You've spoken a lot about being in the middle of this kind of like East versus West. Speaking of the middle, Jimmy Eats World, he has a song called The Middle. They have a song called The Middle. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Or do you not know it?
Can you sing it for me?
No. Okay, you don't know the song. Moving on.
I'm really bad with titles. I need to hear it.
That's okay. It was a weird question from Chris anyway. Thanks, Chris. Spin pass or end over end?
Spin pass.
White boots or black boots?
White boots.
Nice. Favorite Western dish?
Pasta.
Just plain pasta?
No, I mean like good Italian pasta.
Like tomato sauce? Is there meat in there?
I'm thinking of peachy truffle pasta right now.
Oh, the peachy truffle pasta. I'm a orecchiette with the sausage.
We also ordered that
peachy.
one. Yeah.
Big fan of that
What's
one.
the third one?
My third one is the beef ragu.
Yep, that's the same order.
Nice. Nice. Okay, favorite Chinese dish?
I just had siomai, but
Nice. Like 7-Eleven shumai?
I did have 7-Eleven siomai
Nice.
because I'm trying to get in all my Hong Kong really local things.
I like it.
But favorite Chinese dish, I'm gonna go to Peking Garden tonight and have Beijing Kaoya.
Beijing Kaoya?
Peking duck wrapped in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, most recent time you felt strong as hell?
Ooh. This past Saturday, I played 80 minutes at flanker, which I'm usually not a flanker. I'm a winger, but I felt really strong and fit, and I spent 44 minutes in zone 5, like my max heart rate, playing 80 minutes at 6. So I was like, whoa, I could do that.
Next question. Most recent time you felt beautiful as hell?
Oh. That's a good question. I'm umming.
This is no longer quick fire.
I know.
But
This is a longer quick fire. I know
we've
this
just
is
hit
relevant.
a trigger.
We have hit a trigger. What did I do this weekend? You know what? Let's just say right now.
Nice. Do you really believe that? I think you look great right now.
I like this. ET always compliments me when I wear this purple top, so this is a nice purple top.
Okay, nice. I think you look beautiful as hell, so.
Thank you.
One question you want to ask Ed that he must answer right now.
How much does that t-shirt cost?
That's a great question. And this t-shirt is an absolute bargain, Soph. Only $350 from Coastal Fitness. And you can get it online as well.
Okay. Well, I'm packing up a lot of things to move countries right now, so I probably can't get.
You should get this in your suitcase.
But I do like that t-shirt.
Okay, thank you very much. And if anyone else listening wants to get their hands on a t-shirt, we will provide the link in the description below. Last question: what does Coastal Fitness mean to you?
Family is the first word that came to mind because I have met a lot of my best friends here, and also we live across the street, so home. But I think with all the emotions that come up when you're about to leave Hong Kong, I come in here and I'm like, oh, I'm going to really miss this place. It's going to be hard to find anything that compares.
We're going to miss you too, Soph.
I'm going to cry if we keep talking about that. So
okay, let's move on. Last question. Not so quick fire, but describe your perfect day.
Perfect day is, let's say in Hong Kong, it's the weekend. Go on a big, hard hike with a group of friends, probably Sharp Peak, because that's a big, hard hike. And then end up at one of those Sai Kung beaches, eat some really local food, chill at the beach, play some spike ball, cricket, whatever it is that we come up with, take the boat back, really, really tired because you're sunburnt and you get in that like almost tipsy sunburn mood, and then just eat a big meal, very wholesome day, go to bed. Probably watch a movie before going to bed.
That sounds like a great day.
Yeah.
Sophie,
Wholesome adventure.
this has been an absolute pleasure. It's been long overdue.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast before you depart these shores. I know that you're going to be a part of the coastal and process programming family for a very long time, from near or far. But keep on doing the amazing work that you're doing. And I'm looking forward to seeing how your journey unfolds.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Yay.